Today, I will be going over a few budget decks that is best for your price point, from $100 all the way down to $10. Bro, I don't even know what to make with a $10 Yu-Gi-Oh deck, but we gonna find out at the end of the video, right? I think that this is gonna be a really interesting challenge, and if you want to see personal deck lists, consider joining my Patreon as a special thank you for helping me pay my editors. Wait, buy the merch. Without further ado, let's jump on in. All right, 5 Yu-Gi-Oh decks on your particular budget. This can't be too hard. We're starting off with $100 first. That's easy. There is a couple of things I do want to mention as a criteria to make this just a little bit harder. The first is that I'm going to be using some of the most competitive strategies on your particular budget, and I'm also going to try my best to use strategies that got the most recent support. The next is that you can get every single one of these strategies for around that price point that I'm mentioning. If not the entire deck, you're going to be walking away with the most important cards of the strategy with that price range. And my last one, I won't be mentioning Flew Under Ease. Come on, big dog. At this point in time, everybody knows that the bird is the word, and most people hate them. So let's go ahead and start off with our $100 Yu-Gi-Oh deck. This one was easy. I actually even have 2 strategies that you could be playing. The first one I mentioned in my top 5 meta decks, and I think is a crazy good deck. It's Melodius. Now, Melodius only has one real expensive card, and that's First Solo Movement. Unfortunately, the card is now $20 at the time of making this video. Hey bro, can you spare a couple of dollars? Because that's $60 for 3. But the good thing is, every other single Melodius card can be incredibly cheap. I mean, ridiculously cheap. Bagging a Melodius deck for $100, you may even have a couple of bucks to spend on some McDonald's. Nah, I ain't gonna lie, you ain't got no money for no fast food. We all broke. We on this top ramen diet right here. What makes Melodius a top contending Yu-Gi-Oh deck, which is pretty much every single one of these strategies that are going to be listed, is that Melodius can do its entire full combo with simply just one card. It's a reason why that First Solo Movement went so high in prices, because the pure build is going to be able to use that card. But even if you aren't playing the pure build, or maybe you can't afford it right now, Ostinato is still a really good card at being able to full combo. Melodius fits in the current scheme of Yu-Gi-Oh with multiple one-card combos and recovery options. You can play whatever other disruptive cards to be able to slow down your opponent. And as long as you're fusion summoning into the new Melodius Baka, your cards are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. I think that Melodius is a crazy good deck for $100, but let me give you a bonus option just in case you want to use that hundo for something else other than the Nundos. I think making Lightsworn at that $100 range is definitely possible. There are very expensive variants of the strategy, like a cash tier version or even a Horus version, but then there's other versions of Lightsworn that can thrive. Take, for example, maybe a Bestial or even a Chaos version that can be really successful. Lightsworn's new support in Lightsworn Dragoning is incredibly bonkers. Being able to summon itself to the field for free and send any Lightsworn monster from your deck to the graveyard almost fixes every single one of those problems. If only we had a way to get Wolf's and Felice out of our hand. Vice Lightsworn Archfiend allows you to stack those monsters back to the top of your deck, can summon itself, and then send them to the graveyard, almost instantaneously fixing all of Lightsworn's problems. It doesn't matter how much money you're investing into the deck, it's ultra consistent at its very base level. And that's something that I can appreciate about a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. But those were incredibly easy to do. Finding you a budget deck for around that $100 price tag, stupid. I mean, we'll even be making a tier list talking about these decks when you do have $100 really soon. But what if we went down to that $75 price range? I ain't gonna lie, this is where it did get a little bit harder, but it still was fairly easy for your boy to do it. I think Goate is easily that deck that you want if you have just $75. Goate is an interesting deck, and it has a cult following. People really love summoning fish monsters to your side of the field and synchro summoning with them. I think some of the better points for this deck is being able to synchro summon into Goate of the Deep Beyond during your opponent's turn. Not only does it banish all cards on the field, everything that you banished inside of the Goate deck pretty much comes right back. It's pretty ridiculous, especially when you look at the price point of all the Goate monsters. Not a single one is over that $2 price tag. So I bet you're wondering, where do the expensive cards come in? Fortunately, it's not the white aura cards, because white aura did get a reprint in Battles of Legend, but the white engine is really good with the deck, as it does provide the necessary extenders to be able to summon powerful synchro monsters to your field. Those two strategies mesh interchangeably, and we're gonna seem to get more white cards very soon. What ironically makes Goate into that $75 price tag is what makes the deck really good. Goate does have the ability to play a ton of hand traps, but what I personally like about Goate is that Crossout Designator isn't a completely useless card. It's actually quite the opposite. You can use Crossout Designator to be able to banish hand traps so you can go through with your combo, or you can just simply use Crossout Designator to banish your Goate monsters, which will be special summoned on the following turn. I really like finding decks that have multiple uses for good Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and this is a strategy that takes full advantage of Crossout Designator even when your opponent isn't playing hand traps. Goate would easily be in my $75 range, but what would be in my $50? This is where things start to get a little bit harder. I've been talking about heroes for quite some time. This deck just got Destiny Hero Malicious off of the ban list, and I keep telling you, it's insane. Destiny Hero Malicious may not seem like much other than another brick, but having an additional Destiny Hero monster inside of your deck fixes so many things. The first thing is that it does give you another Destiny Hero Malicious to draw. Sometimes that's not good. Bro, what's better than one Malicious? 2 Malicious in hand, 3 Malicious in hand. Holy crap, that can happen though. But in all seriousness, having that additional Destiny Hero extender makes Fusion Destiny a lot stronger, and Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer is no slouch. In today's Yu-Gi-Oh, where card effects don't necessarily negate monsters as well, being able to summon a snack that keeps coming back and reduces your opponent's monster's attack is kind of crazy. But Destiny Hero Malicious doesn't also fuel that. It's also a dark monster to be able to use Mash Change on to get to Master Hero Dark Law. This card needs no explanation. It's already incredibly good. If you thought Dimension Shifter was a crazy good card, having a built-in version of it inside of your hero deck is cool. And then lastly is Skill Drain. Destiny Hero Plasma. 2 of some of the most toxic cards in Yu-Gi-Oh lies inside of the hero deck. And nowadays, you can buy heroes for around $50. I actually did have to make some concessions. Wake Up Your Elemental Hero and Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman may be a little bit out of your budget, but everything else in the hero deck is not even more than $5. What I'm saying is if any of those cards get reprinted, which one of them has a huge possibility, this entire deck is under $50, because without those two, the deck is under $50. That one was incredibly easy, but here's where we start to get into the hard portions. $25. Bro, $25 is like a quarter of a quarter tank of gas nowadays. But your boy always delivers, and I think the best $25 deck, Dinomorphia. Dinomorphia is an incredible Yu-Gi-Oh deck. You remember with heroes, I was talking about one-sided skill drains and stuff like that. Well, Dinomorphia summons that in form of a fusion monster in Dinomorphia Rexter. But while your opponent is using their best cards to be able to combat that, a lot of people forget about Soul of the Supreme King. This card summons Supreme King Zark to your side of the field, which may not seem like much, but if you combine it with Book of Moon, you have a way to destroy all of your opponent's monsters. That's not the reason why we play it, but I just wanted to throw that out there. The real reason why you play Soul of the Supreme King is because it halves your life points, but also it turns off your opponent's spells. If they do use a spell, you banish the Zark off of your field, and you can summon some really powerful synchro fusion crystal dragon monsters, bro. I ain't gonna lie, the only one that I can think of is Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. The other ones kind of don't matter. But being able to put up huge monsters to your side of the field just for your opponent activating a card that they probably play half inside of their deck, that seems kind of crazy to me. And that's not even Dinomorphia's best card. Evenly Matched has been a card that has been outclassed for so long, and I think the biggest problem with it is that it forces you to give up your battle phase. Dinomorphia technically has its very own Evenly Matched in Ferret Flames. I think it's crazy because if you're ever sitting on like 69 life points, your opponent must get rid of their monsters until they have monsters on the field that equal to under 69 life points. And the Dinomorphia cards are pathetically cheap. But what deck would I tell you guys to build with $10 in your pocket? Now, I'm not gonna lie, this was the hardest one. This one was ridiculous. I actually did some soul searching and some research. But before I get into it, I want you guys to let me know down below, what are some strategies that you think would fit these particular numbers? I know for a fact I've given you the best decks at those price points, but there's always some other strategies that you could see that you may like just in case. The last strategy actually did top a few regionals. Ironically, this strategy does really well through the format Almost Underrated. The last strategy is Virtual World, and it's mainly because there's not a single Virtual World card over $1. Now, I will say Virtual World has one huge problem: consistency issues. But when you're paying $10 for an entire core and then some, you probably shouldn't be doing no complaining. Virtual World's biggest draw is being able to summon Virtual World QB Shinshin. We've already stated how Dimensional Shifter and Masked Hero Dark Law are incredibly powerful cards. QB Shinshin is essentially that card in synchro form. And even if your opponent does banish it, Virtual World can easily shuffle it back into the deck with Virtual World Chuche or maybe even Nan Nan, meaning that they can always bring this card back to their side of the field. But that's not even the best thing about Virtual World. What's crazy about Virtual World is that it uses some of the most forgotten and powerful Exceeds in Synchro monsters. I think monsters like Evilsaur Lars and Wolo, founder of the Drudge Dragons, are incredibly underrated Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Then with cards like Baron de Fleur being banned, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon becomes a lot more of an appetizing synchro monster. This deck genuinely has a litany of Exceed and Synchro monsters. I can literally go on forever about them, but what I love the most about Virtual World is that it plays similar to a modern Yu-Gi-Oh deck. You can make those full combo boards. It may not be as strong and it may not be with one card, but hey, you literally paid 1/100th of what your opponent is paying to play Yu-Gi-Oh. So technically, even if you hold that L, you still win it. And that's pretty much what I have for the best budget decks in the game. I am excited to see what you guys have. Of course, big dog, let me know down below in the comment section, what do you think are some incredibly solid Yu-Gi-Oh decks? But also, be sure to check out these videos so I can catch you on the next one.